Welcome to DevOps Accents, a podcast on everything around DevOps, public cloud, and cloud-native topics, with your hosts, Pablo, Leo, and Kirill.
Hello and welcome. Hi, Kirill. Hi, Pablo. This is DevOps Accents, another episode, and we are MK Dev, where we provide DevOps, data, AI, consulting, and engineering services. And here on DevOps Accents, we discuss all things around DevOps, cloud-native technologies, artificial intelligence, and basically anything related to our industry and anything that might be get our attention. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining in for another episode. And I assume you already subscribed since you're already here. And if you are listening us for the first time, if by the end of this episode you think we did a great job, don't forget to subscribe for another episodes and give us likes. Thank you for that. And today with us here is Maks Semyonovykh. Hi, Maks.
Hey, everyone. Good morning.
Maks is a key account executive in Miro, and he been working there from the early days of the company, and he joined the company while working on getting his bachelor degree and saw how the company grows from an ambitious 10 employees startup to category defining product use by 80 million people worldwide, different people, different teams. And today he is account executive supporting Miro's largest customer in the emerging markets. Is it you, Maks?
That is me. Yes. Thanks a lot for having me.
So in DevOps Accent, we meet people from different backgrounds. We like to talk with people with technical background, soft skill background, anything like that, from different background and places. And giving the name of our podcast, DevOps Accents, what is your accent, Maks?
Funny. I actually get asked quite a bit specifically about my accent, how I speak, because I have a very Russian name. People don't usually read it until the end. Even my teammates don't know.
To be honest, it doesn't sound like a lot like Russian.
Well, yeah. It's unconventional. It's not. When I speak with my customers, they would wonder where I'm from based off of my name. I would tell them, look, I am based in Amsterdam, but they would of course note the name and that it's not a typical Dutch name, and then the conversation starts about why my English is so good. So I speak with an American accent, but because I spent a year as an exchange student in rural California when I was 16, 17 during my very formative years as a teenager. So it really stuck. And but actually, funnily enough, when I was studying English, I used to speak with a thick British accent, or what I thought should be a British accent. This just was based off of movies about football hooligans and that entire culture. I was really fascinated by it in my teenage years, and that's what really got me into studying the language, actually, because I didn't understand what people were saying. So, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but if we're talking about languages, it's a very heavy American twang here.
Did you try to train American accent specifically?
I think it just stuck. When I came back from my exchange year, I actually continued on speaking with a British accent for a little while. And even if I really hope no one ever finds those videos, but there are recordings of me, doing some of the first Miro promotions. So back then, real-time board promo videos and tutorial videos. And I was recording for the first few months, maybe for the first year even, with a British accent, which was very unnatural. And then at some point, I actually just realized that, okay, I spent a year speaking just immersed in the American culture, and somehow just a switch flipped in my brain and I switched to American, and then it's been stuck since like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is funny. And this is another accent in our collection of DevOps accents. Thank you for that. And let's explore a little bit your background, because it's for us and for our listeners, it's interesting how people end up in the position you're currently are today, and what brought you to the industry. And you have an extensive experience in one single company through how many years? 12 years or so?
That's right.
Yeah. And how it started and how it's going. Could you give us this little overview?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to share. Happy accidents, really. When I was studying, so between my second and third year of university, I was getting my marketing and manager degree in the higher school of economics in my hometown of Perm, Tatum. I figured, okay, it's time to get real. It's time to get serious and find an internship. Because before that, I was doing some video editing work and some creative work for like a children's camp where I was producing DVDs and then selling them. And I did that for 2 years, and it was very, very lucrative, surprisingly lucrative. Like I was able to afford like a trip to, I think, Sri Lanka or Bali off of the earnings there. And I was still in my first or second year of university. That was really big money for me. So I figured if I continue doing that, it's going to be hard to switch to a proper career. So I went and I found a list of IT companies in my city and also marketing agencies in my city, and just went to every single website, which was 20 in total, looking at whether they were looking for any interns. And all of the IT companies were looking for like junior engineers, which I was very far from that. And then the creative agencies were a bit more of a fit for me. And there were two that were looking for internships, and I just picked one of them and emailed the CEO and said, look, I've spent a year in the US. I can make videos. I even attached a video I did from my family trip to Thailand, which was just me doing somersaults with some really bad dubstep music in the background. I'm really not sure what they were thinking when they were hiring me. But I came in for a conversation, and surprisingly, we just had a lot in common with Andre. He had recently come back from the States as well, where he was, I think, doing some sort of education in like startup building and bootstrapping startups. We went to the same high school. We went to the same university, and he thought maybe there's something there. So I spent a couple of weeks kind of just doing pretty much nothing in the creative agency that he was running. Side note, like the company that Miro is right now, it actually all stemmed from a creative agency where it's just like regular like video production, website production, mobile development that was being run by the current Miro CEO at the time.
And it was not the company it is today. At some point you decided to pivot, or it was like another project that you decided to start?
Yeah, so that company still exists. And but then I was just pulled into another room where there were only like 10 people, and the agency was, I think, 50 people strong or something. And they showed me real-time board, and it said, we actually think you're going to be a better fit here. And back then it was just the endless whiteboard. It was built on Flash, which was really booming at the time. That's 2010, 2011. Funny how things turned out, huh? And I remember them showing it to me, and the first question I asked was, "Oh, do you have an iPad version?" And it took us, I think, four good years to reach a point where we, Flash died a horrible death. We switched to HTML5, and then through that, we're finally able to use Miro or real-time board on a mobile device. But that's a completely different story. So, I landed there, and that's it's been a wild ride since then. Yeah.
Let's make a small pause to explain what Miro is to those little few who don't know what it is. So basically, Miro is an online platform that helps teams to collaborate in an efficient way by providing it a shared digital whiteboard space, basically, and with tons of different features on top of that to visualize ideas, to plan ideas, to plan your workflow, and it works even if you work at the same office or remotely, and things like that. And that's what you described. And now you've been working there for many years. How it feels to stay in the same company for so long? Basically, you've been studying when you decided to start looking for a job, and you stick to the same company. So basically, this was your first experience and your only experience.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Well, I had some really just weird gigs before Miro that didn't really feel like work. It was just me kind of bouncing around. But indeed, like my stint at Miro is really, really long. I've been there for 12 years. And it's a tough question to answer because I don't know anything different. I really don't know how it would have felt if I had switched 5 different jobs. But for me personally, it feels like working for 5, 6 different companies because I started when it was just 10 people and now it's almost 2,000. And through that period, we had gone through just, trying to find our, like just launching the closed alpha version. When I was just starting out, it was still in closed beta and it wasn't open to the audience. And then we, of course, made it public and we started getting first users. And then we started getting first customers. And then we started trying to understand, okay, which markets should we target? Where do we have the product market fit? And we had a few pivots there trying to find what that product market fit would be. For the longest time, we're trying to sell Miro for education because, hey, it's a whiteboard, makes sense, right? So, and then eventually we found our product market fit with companies that were developing new products and solutions. Because I think around the same time in parallel, this whole concept of, the customer centricity, the kind of the startup mindset of going and iterating fast from MVP to a polished product. I think some of the agile frameworks and just like product approach, product-led growth, like all of those things I think we're developing alongside. And we just managed to find ourselves in this really interesting position where we could cater to a lot of the frameworks that the teams were traditionally doing on an office whiteboard, on a physical one. And we managed to really, really kind of recreate that experience of being together in the same room. And eventually, COVID hit and we grew at an incredible pace. We went from, I think, 200-ish people at the beginning of it to more than 1,000 by the end. And so when I think back, I actually had this analogy while cycling to gym this morning. You know how in graphic editors you have the different blur modes. So I think the early phase of my career feels more like Gaussian blur, sort of everything is somewhere in the background. You don't really know what's happening. You don't know the full scope of things. And then towards the end of it, it felt more like directional blur, where things are sort of like speeding past you and you don't really notice it. So it's very blurry, just because it's been such a wild and bumpy ride sometimes, but also really, really fast growth. And I think through that, I also grew quite fast as a professional.
I can imagine, especially given that the company grew a few times and became like 2, 3, 4, 10 times bigger than it was pre-COVID era. And it is interesting part because the way how the teams started to collaborate during this era and what we do now. And we can see probably in some spaces a different trend when people try to get back to on-site cooperation. And this is something that I wanted to touch on because this last year and this year basically were the first years when we were able to get back to meeting people on events, and most of the events we attended, they hit record of the number of attendees, specifically because of the COVID era. People they missed the opportunity to talk to each other, to communicate with each other in person. And at the same time, you are promoting online collaboration tool, and you are hosting event like Canvas 24 online for people who are representing your product. How do you compare these different type of events? Because we could meet you on traditional events, on exhibitions. At the same time, you are holding this. Do you see this trend that it shifts towards online events more, or more towards offline events? And also, Pablo, Kirill, what's your opinion on that? Because we've been there for quite a lot. What people are thinking, would they prefer, which type of the event they prefer? Maks, let's start with you.
I think the short answer is that we do both. So even the Canvas 24 event, where a big portion of it was online, we had the big announcement, that was actually filmed in New York with a live audience. So we had our customers there in the audience. We had our product advocates, people who are building things for Miro, like third-party integrations. And we actually had a follow-up series of what we call leadership summits, where we hosted in each of the cities that Miro has offices in, and that's 5 or 6 cities globally. We would invite our senior stakeholders from the customers that we work with in that area, and they would come on site, and we would deliver that same message live to them so that we can get their firsthand feedback and we can facilitate discussion right there and then. So, and I think just thinking more broadly, even the trends for remote and hybrid work, I think it's always been there. From my experience, we already saw it back in 2017, right? Miro was working with really large enterprise organizations way before COVID had started, and everyone saw the benefit of being able to hire the most talented professionals worldwide, not necessarily having them go all in the same office in the same country or city. So that was already there. So I think it's, what COVID helped us all realize is probably that you can do both if you need to, and let's try and find the right balance, and let's try to maximize the benefit of both approaches, being able to do it at scale online, or also being able to do it in person with a very quality time spent together.
For you guys, what is your difference? Do you see the difference between experiencing events and booths and showcases on site versus learning about the company and the products online?
If you think about, just from my experience, the most of events, even pre-COVID, even before they became primarily online, most of events for me were always online. So if you think about the E3 conference for video games, I never went to LA. I always absorbed this online from the videos on YouTube and so on. I think that was the percentage of people who go to events in person is way smaller than the percentage of people who watch online. And what online events allow to do is to be more creative with how you present the product. Because if you see what Apple is doing with their events, it's crazy, the transitions they do and the graphics and everything. And they're not limited anymore by the physical event. And as far as I understand, in their case, they have this beautiful presentation, because I think it's, in the end, it's way better to present product in this way, with this kind of pre-recorded and pre-edited video, but then they have an on-site event where people actually go and then communicate and collaborate with each other in person. And that's probably the best format, because for presentation, actually, I prefer something that is really polished and like that's something company worked on for many, many days to present. And then if you can afford to, you're able to go to event in person and actually then after the presentation talk to people, then for sure it's better also to be in person there, but not for watching the presentation.
But that's what happens on the events on site mostly. Like you get to a booth, you talk to people, and there is a plus. You get to know each other in person, but at the same time, they start a demo of their project. And in the most cases, it's some digital product, and they demonstrate it to you on a screen anyway. So there's this inconsistency in what they promote and how they promote it. I always felt like that when I've been attending the booths, because to me, like, what the difference?
Maybe it's a bit more like with movies, right? Because the movie trailer is like a separate art of its own, and the idea is that you show the movie in a way that makes it interesting. And no one shows in the movie by opening 2 hours videos and like clicking through different parts of it and show. No, someone actually puts in. I think there was like one producer, I forgot his name, who was saying that trailer is just a separate even form of content. It's not even a commercial of a movie. It's like a separate process that, and even trailers often have some pieces that are not in the movie that are only made for the trailer to kind of inspire people to watch it. And then when you go to the booth and then, as you say, like someone just opens a demo and starts clicking around, it's not scripted. It's not really well thought. So it's like someone showing you something for 30 minutes. And if you just put time into preparing the script and recording in advance, and you can show the same in 1 minute in a more engaging way. But that's the point, that's when you actually let people try it, because that's coming back to the video games, is that you can show the trailer of a video game, but the cool part in person is that you can actually play the demo. I think that was one of the biggest value of this pre-COVID game shows, is that people would travel and play some games one year before they were released.
Can I add something real quick here? I think you touched on a really interesting point, Kirill, here. There is this tension of potential failure when you are doing something live that's not pre-recorded, that I really remember, like with the Apple demos, some of the early ones, when things go wrong, it's just amazing how, like, to see them play it off or see them fix it right on the spot. It's really exciting to see something like that. And same when you think about this Tesla Cybertruck reveal. Remember how the window broke? That went completely crazy viral on the internet, because it's not something that you would expect from polished demo. So I think some of the excitement is definitely lost in those really, overly produced, pre-recorded things. And same, I think, applies to in-person communication. Like something may not work, but also you may have some very serendipitous encounter where it's not a pre-recorded script or demo, but like you just go off of each other's questions or vibes. And then, you end up just having a more genuine and deep conversation about the product, even if it's on a digital screen.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of this very first Google Glass live presentation, which was, I think, one of the craziest still product demos in history, because they had this, someone was, I think, flying in a helicopter in Google Glass and then sky dove into like the convention center, and they were doing all of this live. So there was like this sky jumping and everything in real time. And then I think in the end, the guy was running through the whole convention center to the stage and then handing over the Google Glass to the person. But then how many companies can do something like this, right? Even like Google cannot do it anymore, apparently.
Do you think your project infrastructure is well set and maintained? We know for sure there is always room for improvement. If you are uncertain where to begin, let's first do an audit of what you already have. We will review your setup from every angle: performance, cost, security, high availability, and automation, and provide you with a detailed roadmap of which direction your infrastructure should go. Generate concrete tasks for you to implement, or even take on your infra entirely, if you let us, of course.
What was the main trend? I'm leading to a specific topic. What was the main trend that you discovered on these events, guys? And I mean, for following the recent events that we attended. And I think we can find some similarities to what Miro you guys announced on Canvas 24.
I mean, the main trend is AI, Leo. Everything is with AI.
There is only one trend.
Correct. The answer is correct.
You cannot imagine how many startups on Web Summit were about, we offer AI agent. But not, it's something like, it's like every second startup was generated by an LLMs there. Some kind of AI agent doing this, solving the business issue, or AI agent like doing the medical analysis. That's the biggest trend. That's really half of, if not more of, stands there or about this. And very rare it's something really good, because there are some companies that are doing something really cool with AI, like I'm going to mispronounce it, Hagiteria, What was the name?
Hechiseria.
Hechiseria. That will do this from prompt generating the 3D spaces. This is really cool, but in most cases, you see that it's a GPT wrapper.
Yes, it's what Kirill is telling at the end. What these days the people is doing is adding the AI word to whatever thing that they were doing before. So, at the end is you have a business and you are doing your business, your current business, but what you're doing now is you are adding the AI word. So, I don't know. A podcast with AI. Tea with AI. I don't know. A microphone with AI. So it's the same thing that you were doing before, but now I'm adding AI. So like a plus. And it's something that is what we're talking the other day, because if you search on Google, always Google was using AI. So it's impossible that you do Google search and it's not AI. And you never saw this Google search with AI. So, it was there. So you don't need to put AI. So you need to create a very good product that people like. And you don't need to say if there is AI or there is not AI unless that you need this AI. That is something fantastic thing, but because imagine you cannot say ChatGPT without AI because for sure that this is, you need to understand what it is the problem. But if you have an application, for example, that help people to find HR tool, that is helping to find developers to companies, you only need to sell a company that is selling developers. So I have a company, this tool is helping you to find developers. It's the best tool in the world, and you prove to me. You don't need to put AI in the sentence. That for me, at least for me. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, and now, but okay, it's what you see. And I've been in many, many events this year, many, and everyone is AI. And it's crazy because it's something with AI, not AI.
Yes, something with AI. And one of the investors, VC investors, I don't remember the name, he said something like software equals AI today. I'm not entirely sure this is true, but I see how many companies are integrating AI in their software. Not necessarily they create AI, but with new things. Do you think, Maks, adding, you've been talking a lot about artificial intelligence on recent Conference 24. Do you think by adding artificial intelligence into your project, you are responding to your customer needs? This is something that you do, right? As account executive, your job is to fully understand your client's needs and determine basically whether your business can meet their needs. So by adding AI to your project, do you think you answer to their needs or you try to follow the hype?
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm a bit of an AI skeptic. I don't use it that much to my shame in my day to day where I could have used it more, I think. And I was always a little allergic to the hype around AI. But I think we got something there. I think we got something that resonates with my customers. So from the first reactions that we're seeing, the reception is quite positive. And I think the difference in how Miro approaches it, to what like a product plus AI, that Pablo alluded to might look like, is that we are actually looking to build it in at very specific slots of the workflow. So very pointed places where something like AI is actually needed. So to give you an example, Miro is great for the messy part of work, the discovery phase, where you kind of try and brainstorm different ideas and come up with solutions and try to understand, is it the right problem that we're solving? So bringing different expertise, different stakeholders together and just doing a huge brain dump. And usually that looks like a pile of sticky notes on a canvas. And then someone needs to go and formulate a very structured document out of it, because companies don't work in this sort of format. They can't look at the pile of sticky notes and think, okay, we can do something with it. Like eventually you need to turn it into a set of tasks and timelines and product briefs and other sort of artifacts and deliverables that traditional businesses operate with. Like with many of my customers, if is not in PowerPoint, it doesn't exist. So they need to find a way to turn it into a presentation that at some point some executive will see, because this is how they speak, this is how they work. So what we can do now with AI is select all of those sticky notes and turn that into a structured document. And we have different pre-built prompts depending on what you're looking to do there. So a lot of the time, the teams that are using Miro are doing that to generate a product brief. And that's one of the few prompts that we've added, where you essentially just create a little button, a little widget on that board, and you click that once, and then it generates a document for you. And it's a structured document, just like Google Docs, with formatting, with multiplayer, collaborative editing, comments, everything you want. But you've just saved someone a horrible 1 hour of just meticulously going through every single one and trying to kind of make sense out of those, and then remove duplicates. And so those parts of work that don't really feel rewarding, I think this is where it's great if we can optimize that with the use of AI. And especially if it's about language, if it's about text, there's things that LLMs are really great at, where they don't need to create something new necessarily, but they're just taking your thoughts and then they're putting that into a different format. So that's one of the examples where we've built AI, implemented AI, and I feel like, it's much different than just adding like a little chatbot on the side that you'll switch to and ask something, and then you continue on working as you normally would with a Miro board.
Yeah, like, okay, Miro, generate me some ideas.
Yeah, but there's space for that too, right? Like, but like, how do you build it so that people don't need to switch their mode of working? How do you build it right into the process of work itself? I think this is the big question and the big North Star for us in terms of implementing AI in the right way.
This reminded me a bit of how I utilize ChatGPT. I basically do the same what you just described, especially when I get prepared to the podcast and I'm trying to assemble my script. I enable audio on ChatGPT and I start talking to it. I basically say to it, I will be spamming your ideas and whatnot, basically talking to myself. Your task is to listen to me. And when I finish, I will tell you that I finished, because this session usually split into multiple inputs. And when I tell you that I finished, you need to analyze what I just said and find and basically provide me a structured text with ideas, discussion points, takeaways, things like that for me, just to give me a structured document from what just I said. And I can keep talking for several days, adding ideas, adding notes, and in the end, I have my maybe short, but structured list of ideas. And this works great. I like this feature a lot. And I think this example of usage of artificial intelligence in the tool is very compelling. At the same time, I have some skepticism about adding these tools into team collaboration tools, that the main goal of which is to make teams generate ideas, work better, work more efficiently. And by adding artificial intelligence, I think that we might be stealing this part and make us lazy and giving away part of the most interesting part of collaboration, when we talk to other people, when we ideate together. I'm afraid at some point we will give away this most interesting part to artificial intelligence. And that's what I mentioned, like generate me ideas. Instead of thinking, instead of talking to people, we will do that. Do you think there is a possibility for that?
I think we all need to learn how to use it right. And I think there's time and space for both the hard and meticulous sort of individual, like focused thinking and creating, but also when you are losing that flow, when you are stuck, or if you are just struggling to get into the flow, of creative work and you need some inspiration, I think this is maybe where an AI sidekick or an AI agent might be a good thing. To give you an example that's completely outside of the scope of tech, I also on the side, like I've been creating music for some time, and I've always been like a diehard fan of like, I need to do everything myself. If I'm sampling, I need to find the vinyl record and I need to sample this piece and clean it up and like chop it into samples and then so on and so forth. And sometimes people just download a library of loops and achieve the same result way, way faster. And I always thought, this is just fake. This is not me. Like, why would you do that? You're losing out on all of the magic of the creativity. But in reality, what matters is the finished product. And if it sounds great and people like it, then who am I to say that some people are, skipping steps? So if you are able to skip steps and just get a great result and maybe focus on what you do best, which is maybe I'm great at keyboard, which I'm not, but, if you're enjoying it, great. But yeah, if you need some outside help, and this is another thing where I think Miro is actually like, it really resonates with me how they implemented that and how they kind of position it. Sometimes you just can't get everyone together. Like you need stakeholders from like with different expertise, and there's one person missing. Like imagine you don't have your scrum masters or your agile coach is not able to join your retrospective, but you still need to run it. Otherwise you're going to waste, the rest of this day or tomorrow. Or you need a designer to put together a prototype and they're backlogged for 2 weeks. This is where I think it's actually quite okay to use some sort of an agent where you say, okay, we don't have the best, but we can have something that will move us to the next step, will help us progress to the next step. So we have AI sidekicks, what we call, where we can select again a bunch of sticky notes and say, hey, generate a prototype for me from this, or look at these ideas and help us analyze this in a retrospective way. What can we do better? What went well? What went wrong? Things like that. So, I think that's like trying to find the right balance between where you really focus on the human interactions versus, hey, we're just taking way too long to accomplish this step. We're all burned out. We really don't want to be here anymore, but we really need to wrap it up because otherwise we can't go to the next step.
For those who listens to us, I think many of them asking how they could use whiteboarding tool, and especially with help of AI. Pablo, let's imagine a little bit. I can imagine you and our customers using Miro and tools like that to prototyping and to planning infrastructure or platform together, throwing ideas, components, tools that they are using, and trying to build a scheme of how it should work, how it should communicate with application, how it should be delivered to the servers, to the users, to the each individual device, things like that. Do you think when you do planning like this, artificial intelligence could help you at some point, giving you what, for example?
So, okay, in my experience, when I was using the tool, in my experience, always it was in different meetings with the teams, and then for example, there is a number of ideas, and you need to write down the ideas together, or you do the retrospective, something like that. In this case, for example, because everything is the user is opting and adding themes, in this case I cannot see many points to add the AI. But for example, I can imagine that you're using the tool in different ways, and you're using the tool in the way that you want to create something, and it's something like a brainstorm. Maybe the people can get hints with the AI or something like that. But really, this depends of how the people is using the tool.
I give you the example. Maybe this will be easier. One of the tools that I know Miro has, when you plan AWS infrastructure and you add in some components, it can automatically calculate the cost of this particular component, the usage, and depending on the planned load. This is something you can do. And this is not necessarily artificial intelligence, but depending on the way how you sketch out a thing and you give names, I think there could be some functionality that analyzes what you are trying to say and improving it. Maybe like you just outlined a square, added something, and it turned into a widget automatically. Added a widget because it understood which component you're trying to add. Something like that. Like another example, what I did with ChatGPT basically 2 days ago, I created a plan. I draw by hand a plan of my apartment, and I explained where the windows are, where the ventilation, how ventilation is located, where the doors can open, can close, things like that. And I outlined a few points where I have an option to install air purifier. And I asked it, based on how my plan is designed, what would be the best option? And can you analyze it and give me the explanation which of the points spots would be the best? And he read my diagram, hand-drawn diagram, calculated its how big my apartment is. I give basically measurements, and it produced me a result. And now I'm using my air purifier in that particular spot because ChatGPT said me it's the best place. So things like that.
So we paid ChatGPT for that, no?
No, it was mine.
That's, for example, where I would not trust any LLM, because you're talking about physics of the airflow, and I would not trust language model to talk to me about airflow. But the example with cost, as you said, like for cost, there is no need to have AI for this. You have all the APIs to take the cost from AWS, you can project it. And we have these tools also, like for Terraform, for example, to calculate the cost. Miro now has it inside the diagramming tool. What could be cool if it would analyze the whole diagram and find, for example, the bottlenecks and say that, okay, here, given the certain number of requests, it's going to collapse. Or find some security issues based on how you outline the network setup. To be honest, from my experience, the most common use cases from me working with our customers and many different companies, the number one use case for Miro there is not for diagramming the infrastructure, but for Scrum processes, especially for retrospectives. I think that's, for example, Pablo is smiling because I think Pablo has some Vietnam flashbacks about these retrospectives, same as me. Not because I love Miro, but then if you use it so much for these retrospectives, you start also have negative feelings. So, but for example, in this case, AI could be used for summarizing the retrospective points and then maybe automatically creating action items in your project management tool. For diagrams, the problem is that because Miro is a collaborative tool, so it's good to come up together with the diagram, but then usually what we do is we have an architecture decision record, which is primarily text describing the system plus diagrams. And then for this, we usually use some other diagramming tool, something simple like Draw.io. And this one's just to show how the system looks visually. And often it comes after the collaborative phase where you design the first version of the system there. But another good use case that we had is that when you have already an existing system with, I don't know, like 50 different services and components, and no one really knows for different reasons how all of this works together. And then Miro is perfect for this, that you can actually slowly collect the Oreo of the system. And then AI could, again, tell that, okay, this component here is actually redundant. Like you can remove this and replace it with this one. And this is nothing that, for example, ChatGPT can do, right? Or LLM can do. It's different kind of AI. Because we often talk about AI now as a text generation or large language models. But for this kind of things like calculating airflow or calculating how infrastructure works, it needs to be something more than the LLM in terms of AI.
I agree. At the same time, I think that another cool tool that could be added with help of artificial intelligence is probably to nudge or help people who are not so much into collaborative work, into contributing into the team project. there are people with different approaches, with different mindsets, how they work. Some people prefer to work in teams. Some people prefer to work as independent contributor, and not many of them like when they are forced into a shared space where they're forced to interact with other people, things like that. And in general, I'm curious how people with this approach, like with this mindset, react to tools like that. And do you have something to offer to them, and how to? Do we need to help them to get into shared space, or we need to leave them alone and let them do what they prefer?
I mean, if they can achieve the same quality without speaking to anyone in their team and deliver the same result, then, probably for their manager to decide, but why not? There are indeed people whose collaboration styles or work styles are not really, they're just not predisposed to working with other people that much, I guess.
From manager's perspective, their input can be just as valuable as any other team member's input. And when we get together, we start ideating, and we create some plan and things like that. And this particular person, it's not on the meeting because they don't like things like that, or they are in the meeting but they do not contribute as much because they do not like do things like that on public. But there, at the same time, their input is still valuable. What can we do here to still be able to get inputs from them into our teamwork? I think that if it's even possible, like to retroactively let them influence our team planning processes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think on this topic, a tool like Miro, or any other tool that supports both synchronous and asynchronous collaboration modes, is actually an advantage to those who are maybe a little bit shy to speak up in a room. Like even taking the asynchronous synchronous part away, how did you what was the way of doing that in the past? Like, you get people together in the same room and someone comes up to the whiteboard and starts speaking, and it's usually the loudest person in the room. And then you get a lot of groupthink, and like you start looking around. Okay, like people are raising their hands, and do I agree with them? Should I speak up? Should I just keep my silence? I think that mode of collaboration is probably even less beneficial to those who are more comfortable in an individual contributor mode, or than having something like a hybrid solution where you can actually be behind your screen. You don't need to speak up. You don't need to be a very eloquent speaker or presenter. You don't need to be super confident and charismatic. You can actually just type some stickies up. And for Miro, I think there are ways that we are trying to make it easy for people with different personalities, with different collaboration type. We're trying to make it more inclusive for them. Some of the feature examples that are already there are the anonymous contributor mode. For instance, when you're doing a retrospective, it's now possible to just hide stickies as people are typing and then reveal afterwards, and then everything is anonymous. That really helps compared to like all being in the same room. But also in terms of like encouragement, to refer to what you said back just a moment ago, like, could something like AI nudge me or encourage me to collaborate better? I think that really reminds me of this, like the little paperclip that popped up in Microsoft Word and said, "Hey, it looks like you're trying to do this. Why don't you?" I would probably start talking back if an AI agent told me to do something. But yeah, there are other ways I think we can encourage people to collaborate better. And if we all agree on the set of rules, for instance, like, hey, there's a framework, there's an exercise, we're all playing along, and let's just make it more fun and engaging. For instance, there's one really small thing that we added recently, a spinner wheel. You have a little spinner wheel widget on the canvas with faces of the different people who are in the meeting, and you press it and then it spins and then it stops at a certain point, and then that person needs to speak up. That's just more fun. That's like, you're not being forced. It's just chance, right? So I think it's small things like that, like being able to cater to different.
For some people, this sounds horrible. I imagine you sitting there and you sweating because I'm afraid this this arrow will point at me, and I have to say something.
I would take that over AI telling me to speak up, honestly. And I think, it's still going to be tough. I agree with you. I think there's we can't fundamentally solve this challenge of just different work styles, but I think we can try and create a more inclusive space for everyone to feel more comfortable. And if they're not comfortable to participate in the meeting, hey, it's an asynchronous collaboration tool. You can use the talk track feature on Miro and just record a little walkthrough of what you think is the right way of doing things. Just do your thing on the side, just map out all of the diagramming or the flow charts, and record, and then ask for feedback asynchronously if you're more comfortable working in that way.
Yeah. Thank you. I want those people who listens to us to share their experiences with those tools that let you cooperate together in shared space, online, in different ways. And I wish more managers to better understand how to use these tools, because in my from my perspective, many of them misuse this tool, basically forcing people into something that they're not entirely fancy about. But that's probably a topic for another conversation. We covered enough for today, I think. And for those who would like to learn more about what you do, how you talk about it, and things like that, is there a place where can they find you or share ideas with you and maybe even learn more from your experience?
Absolutely. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Let's talk. I'll share my link, and then if you put it in the description, I'm more than happy to have some conversations or point people to the right resource internally.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I will make sure to add this to the description. Thank you for sharing these things with us. And I would like to wrap up this conversation and give big thanks to those who listens to us and on Spotify and on YouTube. Please make sure to be subscribed to our channel. This helps us a lot. And share your thoughts on your experience with tools like that here, or in reply to our bi-weekly MKDev Dispatch newsletter, where we share all things that happened to us, our new articles, new podcasts, new releases, with some thoughts on top of that. Don't forget to be subscribed. Thanks for coming. See you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
The cloud tech industry is evolving so fast. Do you keep up with it by improving your skills or upskilling your team? At MKDev, we offer a variety of workshops for just that, from the basics to expert knowledge. Before delivering our workshops and training sessions, we carry out a detailed assessment of each participant. To make sure the workshop is helpful for you and your team, we will add more content to it or throw out what you already know. Or we create a custom workshop specifically for the needs of your team and the specifics of your project.